Have you ever walked away from a conversation with your mother feeling unsettled? Like you were just pulled back into the old version of yourself you've worked so hard to outgrow? Maybe you notice the subtle guilt trips, the way you start over explaining without realizing it, how your body tenses before your phone even rings, or how you've always been the one expected to be the bigger person, even when you're the one hurting. And part of you wonders, why does being around her feel so heavy? Why does it take so long to come back to myself afterward? If this is your experience, you're not broken, and you're not imagining things. You're responding to the emotional patterns you were conditioned to carry. Today, I'm joined by Catherine Stevens, author of the Toxic Mom Recovery Guide, to explore what really happens inside you when you grow up with an emotionally immature mom or narcissistic mother, and how those patterns follow you into adulthood. The enmeshment, the lack of accountability, the pressure to forgive without repair, and the ache to finally feel understood. If you've ever struggled to hold boundaries, questioned going no contact, or wondered why you feel responsible for everyone's emotions but your own, this episode will help you see your experience with a new clarity. Because healing your mother wound isn't about blame, it's about reclaiming the parts of you that never got to be fully yours. Now let's begin. Have you ever noticed your skin reflects your stress? I used to struggle with mine, dry, dull, reactive, until I started pairing nervous system regulation with products that actually honor your body. That's why I love Milk and Butterflies. They handcraft every formula with 100% organic ingredients and powerful aromatherapy oils. They aren't just products for your skin, they're rituals that restore hydration, resilience, and calm even in the busiest seasons of our life. You can try them for yourself and feel the difference. Head to Milk and Butterflies and use my promo code Dr. Kelly for free shipping. That's DRKELLY for free shipping. Also, check out the link in the description for the podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. I am so honored to have Catherine Stevens on the podcast today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I'm so looking forward to this conversation. This is another topic that hits home really dearly, and I think will really resonate with so many people who are listening. And what we're talking about today is emotionally immature mom. So would love to just start with, what are some signs that you might have an emotionally immature mom? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with an emotionally immature mom is it's really just a mom who can't be there for you. She's not able to support you and be kind of like that motherly figure. You might have found yourself being more of like the parent than the child in the relationship. So this is a lot of just like self-centered behavior, like, well, you're here to make me happy or to do things for me. And it's a lot of kind of gimme, gimme, gimme sort of things. It's also just she has an inability to regulate her own emotions. Like you might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with a toddler and not like a 50, 60, however old, woman. And so those are kind of some of the more obvious signs that you're dealing with someone who's just emotionally immature. So that's really like the softest label of like, okay, she's not really a healthy person. She's not able to regulate herself or really kind of have that give and take in relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would love to go a little bit deeper into that, because is it something like, as children, we may not recognize this in our parents because we idolize our parents. We see them as heroes and we often learn the behaviors from our parents. So it can very much go underneath the surface. When does it tend to come out that you start recognizing these patterns of maybe some of those emotionally immature patterns that you would see that maybe you didn't see much of your life before?
Yeah, I think, well, and this was true in my experience and with a lot of people I talked to, they didn't really realize until they started their own family. So once they started like getting married and having kids and kind of distancing from the family that they were like born into, that's really where a lot of these things kind of become more obvious because the moms feel like, oh, well, I'm losing you, and stuff. And they like, then they kind of start acting a little crazy in like these ways to try to keep you there. Like, oh, well, and being really controlling, or, well, I don't like that. You need to do things this way. And where before you probably wouldn't have noticed that, you're like, oh, yeah, well, she's looking out for me, or like, I appreciate her input. Like, and then you're like, wait a second, actually, we're going to decide what we do. And things start kind of shifting really fast. I find a lot of times when that's really that like the big shift of like, hey, I'm an adult now I'm going to make my own choices. This is how I'm going to raise my kids. And it's that pullback that, like sometimes big explosions from your family of origin where they're like, well, no, that's not how we do things. And it just starts kind of tearing down from there. So it's really these things that before it wasn't a big deal, but now you're trying to branch out and do things in your own way. And that's where it's like, oh, this actually wasn't healthy. Or like you realize things even more so than before. So yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that because it can be so subtle sometimes, but then also the explosions that you mentioned, and it can all come out of nowhere and be like, oh my gosh, we had a good relationship. Where is this coming from? And that
Yeah.
individuation that is like a natural process of adulthood. Sometimes
Mhm.
that can get delayed too. I think especially with like the millennial generation, you start seeing like maybe
Yeah.
they're home longer, so there can be more of that like overlapping of lives. Like and I know a big term that kind of comes out is like that enmeshment. Can you describe like what enmeshment is? How do we recognize if we are enmeshed? Because again, it can very much ride along below the surface of our awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So enmeshment, it's like when you're emotionally enmeshed with someone, like you can almost feel what they're feeling.
Mhm.
And so that's what makes it really hard for people to start setting boundaries is because you're like, but I know if I say this, this is how my mom's gonna take it, this is how she's gonna feel. And so you're like, okay, well, I'll just suck it up, I'll shove it under the rug, it'll be okay because you're trying to avoid her. And so really it's an of like over responsibility that you feel for your mom. And once again, it's one of those things that you grow up doing. It's like, oh, well, we're not going to do this because we don't want to make mom upset. Or, like if mom's happy, no, if mom's not happy, nobody's happy. Like these kind of cliches that are really common. And you're like, well, yeah, that's just what we do because we don't want mom to be upset. Like either it's
Mhm.
because there's hell to pay or whatever that looks like, and a lot of times there are enabling family members in this, like, okay, like the dad or an older sibling, everybody plays their role in these dysfunctional family systems. And so the enmeshment is like, yeah, it's this over sense of responsibility. I have to manage her because if I don't manage her, she's not going to do it. It's that the emotional immaturity again. She's not able to manage herself and her reaction, so I have to do it. And it really like this unhealthy sense of control and even power that we think like, oh, well, I have the ability to make them feel a certain way. And it's
Mhm.
getting emotional distance is like, actually, she's her own person. I'm my own person. And we get to feel things separately from each other,
Mhm.
which can be really hard to do, especially when you start taking that space and you realize, oh my God, I'm so enmeshed. I can't even function. So yeah,
Mhm.
it gets
Yeah.
really intense.
Oh, totally. It's like that pressure of feeling like you're responsible for their emotions and that like if they are upset, like you're getting automatically getting to that fixer role. Like this is now my responsibility to fix it because things are tumultuous and it can be really so many things that you're dealing with, but yet also the burden of that can also hold you back from your own peace of
Yeah.
feeling like or the confusion of like how do I actually feel? What do I actually want? And
Right, which is huge. And so many people, they don't know how they feel. They don't actually know what they want because they've spent so much of their life like focusing and trying to manage everybody else.
Mhm.
And so like I'll ask my clients, I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what does this look like for you? And there's like, I've never even thought about that before, and stuff. And so it's like, hey, like you actually get to live your life outside of this. This is part of that, the whole healing process is like, all right, our lives are not just one,
Mhm.
it is like, hey, in healthy families, there's like, hey, this is your dream, this is my dream. We're gonna work together to make sure everybody gets what they need, right? And then in dysfunctional families, it's well, we're all just serving the most dysfunctional person. And a lot of times that is the mom. Sometimes it's the dad, but I think with mothers, it's so much more sneaky because it is like gaslighting and manipulation and guilt trips and these subtle, oh, well, poor me, like all my children are leaving me, and you're like, oh, I feel bad. But it's like, no, like, but that's what's healthy. It's healthy for you to leave and to make your own life. And yeah, there's just so many different aspects. It's all webbed up together. It really is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing that's not complex about this, which is gonna be really challenging to kind of like take them apart and see it for what it is. And going deeper into that, I would love to like know what's the difference between emotionally immature versus like narcissistic? Because I think sometimes these get blurred or used like interchangeably, but like, is there a difference and what is the difference between those?
Yeah, so narcissistic moms are always emotionally immature. So if you
Mhm.
have a mom who's like that is like kind of like they do go hand in hand.
Mhm.
The difference I make is narcissism really has that edge of control. Where emotionally immature, they're just not self-regulating. They're just, the toddler spinning out, like having a tantrum, like they don't know how to manage themselves.
Mhm.
Narcissists are like, no, this is what I want, and I they don't know how to get their needs met in a healthy way. So they're going to use control. They're going to use manipulation. They're going to bring in other family members. It's like there's a goal in mind. And they might, honestly, they might not even be aware of it a lot of the time, but that's what it is. There's like, no, like I'm trying to accomplish something here and you're in the way. And I'm going to use whatever I need to get to make you submit or play along or whatever. And so it does have that darker edge to it. So there is a difference. There is a lot of overlap. But really with narcissism, it's like they genuinely like emotionally immature people. Also, I will say this, like they can change. They
Mm-hmm.
can, like, if they have enough pain, like, oh my gosh, my kid's pulling away from me. Like, what can I do? I'm so sorry. Like, and they will actively try to make things better. Narcissistic parents, be like, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, this is a you problem. There's nothing wrong with me. Like you need to sort yourself out. I'm going to be over here. And so that's another big difference where narcissistic people, they're not able to be honest about their behavior and how it's affecting someone else, which really makes it hard for them to change because you
Mm-hmm.
can't change if you don't know there's a problem.
Right.
And that's where a
Yeah.
lot of these relationships break down as a parent, like, well, they're just in denial, and stuff. They're not able to be like, oh, my actions actually led to this. Like, no, that's just them. They're crazy. They're being bratty. They're being whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's missing how their child actually feels. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so deeply painful when you have that, and especially, when you learn about narcissism, that there may not be an opportunity for them to change. And this is kind of
yeah.
just taking that at face value can be really painful. And I know you mentioned before, sometimes you'll see these signs more when you start to go on in your own journey or start your own life. And with the addition of like grandkids. Can you talk about that? Because there's a lot of that like expectation of like I am entitled to see my grandkids regardless of the relationship that I have with my child. Can you go into that a little bit? How does that play a role in navigating that situation?
Yeah, I mean, that makes it extra difficult because especially at like you as the parent, you're like, well, wait, because you can, and this is something in my own life where I'm like, I could clearly see a line from how my parents' interactions with my siblings, and me included, like led to on very different life paths, and stuff. There's so many different like varieties of it. And it's like, I don't want my kids exposed to that. And so there is that expectation with these parents who are more narcissistic. They're like, well, I did a great job. Everyone turned out fine. Like they're just looking at like the highlight reel and they're not looking at the like, oh, actually, these are the negative things that also came out of my parenting. And so if you're not emotionally distanced from your parent, it's going to be really hard to say, actually, like you don't get to have unlimited access to my kids. If you do have access, it's going to look this way. There get to be boundaries around it. Like I'm always going to be there. It's going to be limited. We're not doing sleepovers. Like there's all of these things, and all of that becomes much more difficult when you're still enmeshed, when you still feel responsible for keeping your mom happy. Because
Mhm.
she's like, oh, but grandkids, this is what I've been waiting for. And it's like, okay, well, you should have done a better job of like building up our relationship because it's a benefit. It's a reward almost like, hey, you have a good relationship with me, then you get access to my kids.
Mhm.
And it's, something I tell people, it's like, you wouldn't just let some stranger on the street like have unlimited access to your kids. Like just because they have the title of like mom or dad doesn't mean that they just get unlimited access. If your relationship with them isn't good, it isn't healthy, why would you let your kid around them? And I understand there's so many different situations for this, right? Like there's really not a cookie cutter answer, but for you as the parent to heal and say, hey, what I need and what I want is important. And it's my responsibility, like actually your responsibility to protect your children instead of protect your parents from the consequences of their actions. Like that, it's another big like growing up moment. Like so much of this is just like, hey, I'm actually the grown up now. I get to make decisions. It's not the kid and parent thing anymore. It's no, no, no. Like we're both adults and this is what I'm choosing. And that is it's a difficult place to get to. I'm not saying like, oh, it's so easy. It's like, no, no, there's levels to it. But yeah, the entitlement and stuff, and these parents, oh, you're weaponizing my grandchildren. Oh my God. Like, no, it's just you're not a safe person. I don't want them picking up stuff around you. And
Yeah.
you can't tell them that, because that's going to be a whole other explosion.
Mhm.
But you do get to communicate with your actions, like this is what's best for you, and you get to decide what's right for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, like I said, so many layers.
So challenging,
Of
and it's amazing.
everything.
Like if there was like physical, damage that was occurring between like your parent and you, like it's pretty cut and dry, a little bit more obvious. But
Yeah.
sometimes when it's like that emotional damage, you don't see the signs of it, and it's not as objective. And a lot of times we can even like invalidate our own experience of like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. And okay, am I being a terrible daughter for not allowing them to have access to the grandkids? So it can be a lot that goes in your mind when you're not having that like objective evidence. Like it's really just your experience of what it is, but doesn't make it any less real. It just is really challenging to navigate that. And as you establish boundaries and you set those boundaries, I know boundaries can be really fearful because you start setting them, then there's like a lot of backlash with that. And then like the text wars start and the phone calls and everything. And then you can get sucked into that like cycle of like, I need to like justify my decision. I'd love to hear your take on that, and curious to see like what would be a good approach for that, because that can be really like a big sticking point of like, okay, now you've maybe set those boundaries, but now you're investing all this energy in just trying to explain them to this person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just going to wear you out so fast. And this is a mistake that I made early on. Is like, okay, well, if I can just get them to understand, then
Mhm.
everything is going to be okay. And it's real, like being really like truthful. It's like they won't understand. They're not able to. And it's not that they don't, not like, and then their brain, they don't have the capacity to understand stuff. But when it comes to this, there are so many defense mechanisms in the way. There's no way that they're going to be like, oh, I understand because I did this when you were a kid and it affected you this way. So of course you don't want me close to your kid. They're not able to go there. They're not able to be that honest with themselves. And so the biggest thing with that is you can't explain it to them in a way that they're going to understand. And you
Mhm.
have, and like coming to peace with that and saying like, okay, so since they can't understand, really your boundary gets to stand alone and saying, hey, this is what I can do. Something I've kind of moved towards recently is just taking action instead of having it be, we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to use my words. I'm going to communicate my boundary. It's your actions are your boundaries. It's, hey, we're going to go over and like me and my spouse have chosen, okay, we're going to go over this is how long we're going to be there. This is what we're comfortable talking about. If they bring something up, we're changing the subject or we're asking them about something else, and when that time hits, or if they keep pushing, oh, okay, sorry, the visit's over. We got to go now. And
Mhm.
it's taking action instead of saying, you're crossing my boundary. I asked you to do this, like
Mhm.
having these big confrontation moments with them. It's no, like I'm acting out my boundaries. This is what I'm willing to give. If I'm on the phone with my mom, this is how long I'm able to be on the phone with her. She doesn't need to know how long I can be on the phone with her. That's not beneficial information to her for her to have.
Mhm.
I know, okay, this is how long is safe for me. And then that's it. And so really it's letting go of like, yeah, you can explain it to people. I wasted a lot of time trying to, I'm like, if they can't, and you just can't, you really can't. So it's like, all right, they can't understand. And since they can't understand, this is the action that I get to take moving forward.
Mhm.
And really coming to terms with that, which yeah, is tough.
Absolutely. And then, I know you're talking about like the actions, like, this is what I'm going to do. If they say this is what I'm going to do. And then when we take those actions and it almost feels like, are we becoming like robotic if we're not able to express our like emotional vulnerability with this person? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that can be a challenge too if we look at our moms as that person of like who's supposed to be expectations, but like this nurturing individual in our life, and now as an adult we're almost approaching it from this like very concrete robotic way of like, this is how I'm going to do it. How do we navigate that when we feel like we can't go deep with our moms but yet we want to have a relationship? Like, what does that look like when you have those kind of competing things going on?
Yeah, so I would say the first part of that is grief. And this is such an under talked about part of this whole thing is there's a lot of layers to grief, is grieving the mom that she should have been, that she can't be right now, and that she's never going to be. There's these layers of like, oh, like I thought that our relationship was one way, but it really wasn't. It was just, what I was trained to do, for lack of a better word, like, all right, well, this was the way that we had a relationship then, and it's changed now. And so like there is grief of like, wow, it's never going to be what I thought. I can't go deep with my mom as much as I wish I could. I can't do that. And so finding other ways to this is something I call it kind of like the remothering process is like you get to remother yourself and be that mother that you needed or that you need right now. And so when those needs are getting met, like you're not expecting her to meet that for you, it's kind of releasing these expectations of, well, maybe if I do this perfectly or I explain it this way or, kind of contort myself into this thing, like then maybe we can have relationship. It's
Yeah.
no, like it's being honest, like this is where she is and I love her and I can't be really close to her, but I still want whatever that level of relationship looks like for you, whatever's healthy and right for you. There's a lot of there's a lot of room for it to be exactly what you need. I think we're like, oh, well, it has to be so extreme, like it's one way or it's the other. And it's like, no, there's really room for this to be what you need it to be, but also it's yeah, grieving what it won't be and saying, okay, even though that like you don't have to be a robot in it, like okay, this feels really uncomfortable. It's just like, hey, I can't be honest with her because she can't meet me there. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And really kind of moving forward from a place of compassion of like, this is what she can do. And if you're okay with that, then move forward in the relationship, move forward in the way that's right for you. The problem often becomes she wants more than you're willing to give. And that's
Mhm.
where more friction comes, where you're like, okay, well, this is what I can do. And her react or her rejection and her triggers come up and it's like, it might cause her to reject you or go no contact with you because she's like, well, this isn't what I wanted, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, it's not what you wanted, but this is what I can do. And it's once again, it's those boundaries of it's not my job to make her happy. It's not my job to give her this relationship that she wants to post about on social media, like this is where we are and this is what I can do. And
Mhm.
and she gets to work through that if it's a problem for her.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Really help. I appreciate that explanation because that can be such a challenging dynamic of like, okay, how do I approach it now? And like, what does that look like? And I know that's always evolving too, based
Yeah.
on, it's a dynamic between two people. It's always going to be moving and growing. But what I would love to like just get into a little bit more is when when you're around your mother, especially if there's like enmeshment or any kind of like guilt trips or all these things that can kind of be used against you, your body feels that. And so then you have this like nervous system reaction. And if you're trying to navigate like a low contact or at least some kind of contact with your mother, but you're feeling that emotion or that reaction in your body. So like you get the heart rate, the tension, everything. How do you navigate that when you're like trying to have that relationship, but yet you're feeling it every single time in your body?
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I would say there's some work that needs to be done before you're interacting with her.
Mhm.
And some of this is stuff that I teach. It's like, it's visualization, it's mindfulness. It's like, hey, noticing like, okay, when I'm around my mother, I feel this way. And it's really like once it's that remothering thing of like, okay, I feel stressed or I feel anxious or I feel pressure. And
Mhm.
realizing like, oh, it's like kind of digging down a bit deeper. It's like I feel pressure because I feel like I should be doing something that I'm not. This is literally where that guilt comes from. It's like I think I should be doing something and I'm not doing it. And so now I feel bad because oh, I'm not acting in the same way that she expects me to, or the family does, and all the pressure. And so it's like, hey, I know that you feel like this is your job, and it's not. Um,
Mhm.
and you actually get to interact with her a different way now and kind of remothering that younger part of you that feels like, oh my gosh, we're doing something bad. It's like, oh, no, no, hey, actually, you're okay. And this is what we're going to do now. She's going to say, whatever that thing is that she always says that sets you off. And like, hey, and this time when she says that, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to know that we're okay. And
Mhm.
it's not responding. It's not getting into that, like, yeah, that it's healing those triggers so that when she does the thing that she always does, it doesn't affect you in the same way. And
Mhm.
it's, like I said, this is stuff I talk about in my recovery course and I do like in coaching. It's like, hey, what is the trigger? What's actually below that? Like, what's this belief that is getting set off or you're like, and that causes the physical reaction because that's what it is. It's,
Mhm.
these old learned ways of interacting with her. And it's like, hey, actually, like, we're not in that place anymore. If
Mhm.
she's upset at us, because it's these survival mechanisms. Like if you don't have your parent, you are toast, like you don't survive, you don't make it. And it's like, hey, actually,
Mhm.
guess what? We're this old now. We're gonna be okay. Even if she's upset, we still get to be okay. And it's having that distance from her, or it's not so up close and like, oh my God, it's like, oh no, like, okay, she can be upset and I can still feel at peace.
Mhm.
I don't have to take on her emotional energy, or I don't even have to play into it the way that I used to. Like it's shifting your focus. Like, okay, what am I bringing into this situation instead?
Mhm.
Connecting to like inner peace and like grounding within yourself. So I would say like, yeah, if you're still feeling those like big emotional, like physical reactions when you're around your mom, like maybe take some more time before the next time and like really kind of like there's this great thing in NLP, it's got kind of like future pacing, right? It's like, hey, imagine what do you want it to look like? And start installing that. Okay, well, I would feel calm, I would feel at peace, I would be grounded, like, okay, and you're teaching your mind, hey, this is how we interact in these situations. Um, because that's super powerful, so I would say that's kind of like the biggest thing. Like if you're having these reactions, like maybe you're going too frequently, you don't have enough distance yet, and so that's just a sign, hey, there's a bit more work to be done so you can have the relationship with her that you want. Because most people don't want to go no contact with their mom. Like that's not the goal. Most people, they're like, I just need to know how to do this so it's not killing me. um
Right.
so
Yeah.
much of the time we're just sacrificing ourselves over and over again. Okay, well, maybe if I try it this way, we can have a relationship, or maybe if I try that, and yeah, and it's figuring out, okay, how can this work for you in a way that's actually healthy?
Yeah.
Instead of just, yeah, putting yourself on that altar again and again, just for the
Yeah.
sake of the family. So,
Yeah, I so appreciate you sharing that. Just having that self-awareness and the power of that, like, where am I? Checking in with yourself, having that
mm,
self-compassion. It's so powerful versus like some maybe tactics you've been using prior that weren't working.
yeah,
Just like push, 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 more, more, more.
yeah,
It's
that doesn't work.
such a different energy when you're approaching it from that perspective. And what I would love to to go into it again, like it's just talking about when you are in that position and you are doing those practices, um, a lot of like pressure can come from the outside of like just forgive your mom, move on, like, and
Mhm.
your inner experience, but yeah, other people don't know what your experience is or how you're feeling or the interaction. They're just looking at like, maybe you're not going there often or you are no contact and they try to like just sweep everything under the rug. Can't you just move on? They pressure you from the outside. Can you talk about like forgiveness piece versus like reconciliation? Like, can you forgive without reconciliation, and what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I fully believe you can forgive without reconciliation, because forgiveness, it's just letting go of what someone did. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen or that it wasn't painful, but it's you're not holding it so tightly and like replaying it all the time. And this is something people can get stuck in is, because we do feel the need to justify it to ourselves. And we're like, well, they did this and they did this and they did so I'm okay, I'm okay. And
Mhm.
for that specifically, just kind of like as a side note, like pick three things, that it's like, hey, these are the reasons why we are where we are. And if
Yeah.
you need to refer to it, that's great. But like, you don't need to keep rehashing that thing over and over again. Like, that's keeping you more stuck. And it's actually kind of keeping you back in that place instead of like, okay, well, that's where I was and we're moving forward. So forgiveness is like, okay, yes, all of those things happened.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to hold it that tight. I'm not going to keep replaying it. I'm not going to, like, let healing come to those parts, but like give yourself permission to move forward. That was one part of your life. And it was
Mhm.
this, just one aspect. And like there's so much more for you.
Mhm.
And like reconciliation, it takes two people to reconcile.
Mhm.
It takes, hey, we're gonna work together to restore this relationship. And
Mhm.
so many times it's always on the child of like, okay, well, I'm gonna give, this started in childhood, right? I'm going to give so much because you love your parent, you care about them, like you need them for survival, like once again. And so you overgive. And if your parent isn't willing to meet you there, they're not willing to say, hey, I actually did things too. I'm so sorry. Like, I want to repair this. I want to restore this, you know, um, instead of being defensive. And like, sadly, so many parents, they can't do that.
Mhm.
Whether it's lack of tools or they just have it's really just their own unhealed trauma, right? They just never dealt with it. They're like, oh, wow, it's fine. I just got over it. Well, clearly
Yeah.
you didn't because this is still a problem.
Right.
Yeah, like that's the biggest thing is reconciliation. It really takes two people. You can't just reconcile all by yourself.
Mhm.
That's delusion. And so just to say, hey, and there are a lot of pressures, especially if you grew up like in a religious household and stuff, like, well, just forgive, and do this and just, it's your family. They, what had a extended family say this to another sibling. It's like, well, they need you and you need them.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
well, that's
Mhm.
not true anymore.
Yeah.
They would like for you to be around,
Mhm.
like that would probably make them feel good, but you don't need them and they don't need you. Like everyone's an adult.
Mhm.
Everyone gets to decide like, hey, this is what it looks like. And so it's once again like, all right, I'm a grown up, I get to say, all right, that's what happened. I'm not holding on to it. I don't have bitterness about it. But also like it's not my job to fix it all or to just patch it all up on my own and make it better. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of pressure, but it's like, no, 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 like it takes two. And if you don't have two, like you can't have reconciliation. You're
Yeah.
somebody shoving it under the rug and eating it.
Right, exactly. A complete self-sacrifice. If you're just gonna, yeah, completely change yourself to make it work, and then what's the cost of that long term? Yeah, 100%. I appreciate you sharing that because it is that like pressure, especially as a child. Like you can often have like dynamics with other people, but it's like sometimes when you get with that parent, you like go back to feeling like that child and you almost feel powerless in it, and you're just trying to like make it work regardless of what the cost is. So it can be really challenging to like feel like the grown up in that situation and feel like you have the power within yourself to navigate it without taking on the burden of doing it
Yeah.
all yourself. And for someone who maybe they got to the point of no contact and they're with that at that situation with their parent and they're wondering like, okay, well, now that I'm no contact, like how can it ever get better? Is this indefinite? And what would be like a way to navigate that? And what would be evidence that maybe the parent has gone through some growth or has had some self-awareness or is taking some accountability for their role in that? What would be some evidence that maybe you could open that door up a little bit more after they've gone no contact?
Yeah, yeah. And it's going to be something that's tricky because there's going to be the
Yeah.
extended family who are like, hey, they've changed. They've
Mm,
gone to therapy. They've started, or they said they're going to therapy. And you're like, okay, that's nice, but really like the proof is in the pudding, It's like if there's actual stuff that shows you they've changed, like you will see it and you will know. And people, well, how can they know? They're no contact. They're not talking to me. Um, if you really want to reach out to someone, you can find a way. And
mhm,
it will be with so much humility and repentance and like I'm so deeply sorry. It's not a well, I'm sorry you feel that way or I'm sorry for all the things I did. That's not an
mhm.
apology.
Yeah.
Like it's like, hey, I'm so sorry that like our relationship got to this place. I know that you feel this way and I respect that. If you want to repair, I'm here.
Mhm,
That's what it would look like. It would be so humble. And
mhm,
and you would know like, okay, this is different.
mhm,
Instead of, and this is what a lot of parents try to do. Well, I'm just sorry for this or that, and stuff. And so a good way to test it if your parent has kind of reached out to you after you've been no contact, because they will eventually. And I kind of come back around like, oh, are you serious?
yeah.
Um, is to you can test it out with some boundaries. Like, hey, well, I still need this in our relationship. I need to have the freedom to say no without you getting upset. Is that something that you can be okay with? Kind of like test it. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can't just, because there's the little kid parts like, oh, they
Mhm,
came back, they want to have relationship with me. And it's like grown up
mhm,
is like, well, no, no, hold on.
mm.
Hold on,
Right.
baby. Don't get
Mhm,
to like, wait a second.
mhm,
And test it, push it. Like, okay, but do you really mean it? Have
mhm,
you really changed? Because if they've done the work, they'll be like, and they could even be honest, that might be really hard for me at first, but I want to do that for you.
mhm,
And there's gonna be that, hey, we're working on this together. It's that, that reconciliation element. It's like, no, we're both doing this. It's not just all on you. It's not just all on your parent. Like we're rebuilding something.
mhm.
And so that would be the biggest thing. Like you'll be able to tell pretty quick when you push back because they'll think, oh, well, I apologize, so everything's fine. And it's
Mhm.
like, and if you're like, well, actually, even if you're a little hesitant and then they explode, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nope, they're not ready.
Right.
That's a really
Exactly.
easy way to tell. Like just test it a bit first.
Mhm.
Because it'll become pretty obvious very
Yeah.
if they've really done the work or not. So
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Because that again, that could be one of those like sticking points of like, okay, what is the
yeah.
next step now that you're at this point? Is there ever a chance for that? So it just gives that clarity of like, okay, this is what I can look for, and do I feel safe inviting that back in my life under the terms that I'm setting? So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And um what one thing I want to go into, because this is another thing too, like when we set that no contact, we can be like, I'm out, removing myself, and
Mhm.
I'm, maybe you move away, maybe you just cut them off, and then, years go by, but you still feel like you're like emotionally stuck in that situation. And like you hear their name and you're like fired up, and you still feel like you're on the hook emotionally. I would love for you to talk about that, like the distance physically versus the emotional hook that maybe we can still feel in that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is people are like, okay, well, and I see this in my comments a lot. People are like, oh, I just moved 1,000 miles away. I'm like, I
Mhm.
literally moved to the other side of the world. Like the distance, the like physical distance doesn't matter. The
Mhm.
emotional distance does. And so if you're still feeling that, um, yeah, that like, oh, like I hear their name and I'm angry or like you're right back there, then you haven't really healed, like you just moved your location.
Mhm.
And so this is why, and some people do like they're like, well, I just did this and I'm fine. Okay, well, that actually doesn't fix it. Like you have to, like, there's so much emotional baggage that comes with having a parent like this because you yeah, like everything, the way that you see the world, the way that you see yourself, the way that you get your needs met in other relationships is affected by the relationship that you had with your parents. And so, like, that's why healing is so important, even if you are already no contact, even if you are like distant from them, it's like, hey, there's wounding and stuff that happened to you. And to be able to be honest about it, because it is hard when it's emotional. You're like, well, it's complicated. It's hard to explain to people. And they're like, well, are you sure that was really what it was? Because that doesn't sound like a big deal, but the emotional impact that it had on you is huge.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, the impact that it had, it matters. And the
Mhm.
pain that you feel, even if it wasn't like, okay, yeah, my arm got broken or it's this big dramatic thing, like, there have been so many studies now. It's like emotional abuse is just as damaging as physical abuse, if not more so, because it's so
Right.
sneaky. You
Yeah.
don't realize, like, you're just like, oh, well, that's just normal. And so you keep going.
Mhm.
And so it really does a lot of times, when you start having kids, you're like, oh, I'm not as healed as I thought I was.
Totally.
I
Such a
wasn't as
mirror.
prepared for this as I thought. And
Exactly.
you realize, and there's one, and so much opportunity, like, oh, when I'm reacting with my kids, like in this anger, in this fear,
Mhm.
or in this, like, oh my God, like this stuff, it's actually parts of me that
Mhm.
haven't healed yet. And
Yeah.
so, like, it can really actually be helpful because you're like, oh, okay, like it's this mirror of like, I still have room to heal. I still have room to grow. Because yeah, if you're getting super easily triggered by like your parents and stuff, like you're just not healed. And that's not a bad thing. It's just like, hey, let's just be honest. Like, I still have pain in this area. There's still stuff to work through, and that's okay. There's a
Mhm.
lot of like so much self-compassion in this work.
Yeah.
You have to be kind to yourself. If you're
Mhm.
just going to keep judging and all this stuff, it's like you've never left home. Like your parents are still there. Like they're still in the room yelling at you, and stuff like
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
have to like, hey, no, it's okay. I know you feel upset and it's okay. I know you feel scared or angry. It's that remothering again. It's like really okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it's so you're so right, because like when you have children, it's like it's such a mirror of the things, and you're like, okay, was it what they did, or is there something in me that that's
Yeah.
come up to the surface because of that? It's so
Mhm.
powerful for just bringing on that self-awareness. And how important is it, like when you are diving back into your own childhood, because sometimes it can be really hard to like remember stories of like, no, I
Yeah.
had a good childhood, everything was good, I had the roof over my head, I had food, clothes, like was in activities, like why am I struggling with all these things, or what's going on? And how important is it to remember those stories for healing versus being able to just go back to maybe some of the emotions that you were feeling as a child?
Yeah, I think emotion, I don't know. I think we kind of put too much pressure on like have the memory, and stuff like
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like, I can't remember my childhood. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, we don't
Mhm.
remember stuff. We were just, kind of like bebopping along, and that's just what we were
Right.
were in. I think it is, a lot of times when I think the easiest way to do this is when you notice a big emotional trigger and like you're acting in a way that you normally wouldn't. You're like, wait a second. First of all, like awareness, right? Okay,
Mhm.
why am I like exploding like this? Why does this feel so intense?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you connect to that emotion, it can link back to a memory or
Mhm.
just kind of like a whisper of like, hey, when a similar thing happened when I was younger, I wasn't able to speak up for what I needed. And that's what I'm feeling now. So the memory isn't as important as the emotion because the emotion is the energy that's still trapped in your body that's getting set off when this thing is happening. So yeah, like the memory, not as important. A lot of times it'll just naturally come up. It's not like, I need to think of the memory. Like
Right.
this is not a high stakes, high pressure kind of thing. This is
Mhm.
a very much like, okay, as it flows and as it comes, your subconscious mind's like when you start diving into this stuff and being open to it, it will easily and readily be like, hey, remember this? Hey, what
Mhm.
about this thing? And you're like, oh, and it's all of these opportunities for you to say, okay, that was there, and to kind of analyze, like, oh, well, I started believing this. I
Mhm.
believed that I was a burden if I ask for this, and so
Mhm.
I stopped asking, and so now it's showing up as I take on too much and I'm doing too many things for others because I'm still trying to get my needs met because I can't trust anybody else to do it because when I was a kid, it wasn't there, and
Mhm.
it's all connected. It really is. And so just, so I would say the main thing is like, all right, here's the emotion. What's the belief? What's the thought that's attached to that? And is there a memory there? And if there is, that's great. If there's not, that's okay. It's about, okay, what's the truth now? What's
Mhm.
actually the truth? And
Yeah.
like opening up that new possibility of like, oh, I get to interact with this differently now. I can actually ask for help.
Mhm.
I know that there's people in my life that I can say, hey, I feel really overwhelmed. Can you help me?
Mhm.
You create this new pathway.
Mhm.
And it's really healing that way. Like yeah, it's so amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That's so I love your just explanation of that and just like not having to like, try to force a memory out. It's like I have two young boys and we took them out and then we brought them home and they were like, "Well, why can't we do this?" And I'm like, "When is it enough?" Like if we had had this whole day of fun, I'm like, "When is it enough?" And I was like, "Oh, this is my stuff coming up." Like this
Uh,
wasn't about what them asking that. It was me like feeling like, "Oh, I'm not enough." And it's so interesting. I
yeah.
ended up doing a sound bath like a few weeks later, and it like came up like my 8-year-old self, like this memory came up for me of feeling like I didn't get accepted to something, and I was like, oh, as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's so minor, but as an 8-year-old, it affected me. So it was like that story actually came up of like you're not enough, and that has replayed in so many situations. So it's so profound how like the dots kind of get connected when you start being open to that awareness of like what's going on beneath the surface. So
Yeah.
yeah, so powerful.
Yeah, it's just I think it's so much more readily available than we think. Like,
Mhm.
especially if you're like high achieving, you're like, well, I'm just gonna get shit done, and stuff. It's like, no, this is not one of those times. Like,
Exactly.
it's actually okay for you to like just kind of settle in and to be calm
Mhm.
and to actually like allow like nurture and that like mothering energy to come to you, like it's it just because it'll come. You don't
Mhm.
have to force it. You don't have to, like you can be focused and be intentional, like, hey, I'm going to spend this time, subconscious. If there's something you want to tell me or bring up, that's great. But or
Yeah.
even just take a moment to take a break, to just relax. Like, hey, you're okay.
Yeah.
And it's that mothering energy. It's hey, yeah, it really is. It's so much calming and nurturing that you get to give to yourself. And that does open the door for so much healing in like in every area of your life.
Yeah.
Not a
I
performance thing.
Oh gosh, easily that masculine energy, it's so easy to get into, especially if you're like a high achiever and or you're used to being like the fixer of like, I have to figure this out and like you're clenching with the fist, but it's just like opening the hand and be like, okay, I'm gonna receive now. I'm gonna receive and let myself have that. And can we go into like I know we've talked about so much of like some of the complexities and the tough parts of this and the grief and the guilt and there's so many like heavy things, but I think I would love to just hear you share like what does it look like on the other side? When we navigate all this and we start to heal some of those wounds and we start to recognize this in ourselves, we start to feel that separation, that individuation. What does that feel like for someone who's listening right now and they're in the thick of it and they're like, does it get better? Am I ever going to feel like free from this. I'd love for
Yeah.
you to share that so we can experience that hope and that health on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. There's yeah, there's so much room. I think the best word for it is expansion.
Mm,
When you're in that and you're like, okay, it's so much about locking you into like, well, this is your role and this is what you do, and don't break outside of that because then there's going to be trouble, right? They're like, and when you kind of get to the other side, and even like kind of you can get glimpses of it already when you tap into that piece of like, hey, I'm going to be grounded when I'm around my mom. I can, visualize myself, like stepping into peace or being surrounded, and stuff like these
mhm,
different things. You can access it now. It's not just like a future, okay, well, months from now I'll be okay. It's no, no,
yeah.
it's available to you now. And even if that feels overwhelming, just imagining like, okay, what would it be like when I'm able to be at peace, when I
Mhm,
don't feel that guilt? What would that be like? Oh, like I would be so at peace. I would feel expansive. I would say, oh, actually, there's options. I
mhm,
have I have different ways that I can do this. And there's so much like I think when you kind of get to the other side of it, you're like, oh, like you just I don't know, I think you just have so much more resources. Like you can connect to everything that's already inside of you. And
mhm,
like and then you can I think it just naturally like you give to others. You give to
mhm,
others out of that healing, out of that abundance. And
mhm,
I mean, and that's definitely like what happened with me. I'm like, oh, you can get on the other side of this. When you're in it, it feels so overwhelming. That's why I started doing this work. So I'm like, it is so much when you're in the thick of it. And it's like, no, no, hey, there's actually light over there. I promise you can get there. And it doesn't have to be this like, yeah, that like slogging through the mud, like, oh, this. It's like, no, no, no. You can actually kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like for lack of a better, like transcend it. And you can actually like, okay, like we're actually gonna float over to what's
mhm,
over here. You can bring healing without digging through every single memory and every single experience. It's no, no, this is the belief, and this is what we get to believe now. It's
mhm,
as simple as these shifts that open you up to, oh, you do have options. You're
mhm.
not stuck. And
Yeah.
it's to be so much better than you think it can be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, it's just so important to hear that part of it because it's just
Mhm.
recognizing what is possible for you, especially if you've been living with some of the same struggles for your whole life, or you just feel like you're in the thick of that, or trying to figure out that dynamic. And one of my favorite quotes is from Einstein: "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created
Yeah.
it." And it's like those little shifts of just seeing it, like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And then that's when you start to be like, oh my gosh, I see everything different now. It like gives you a whole new lens of seeing the situation. And even if it doesn't change, your lens changes. And that's really where like the power is. So I so
Absolutely.
appreciate you taking some of the challenges in your life and transmuting them to then help other people who are dealing with that today. So it's so powerful the work you do and can't be spread enough. And for someone who wants to connect with you, dive in deeper, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the best place is Instagram. So it's at Catherine the Grace. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm also on TikTok and on Facebook. I think I'm kind of getting everywhere now. But yeah, the best place is Instagram. That's where I post the most. And yeah, no, I would love to. I have the Toxic Mom Recovery course, and then I also do one-on-one sessions. Like it really is like you were saying, like those small shifts. Like I'll be in a session with someone, and I'm like, what about this? And they're like, oh my God, like, and it really does, like it blows your mind because you're like,
Yeah.
it's a small shift, but it changes everything. And so
Yes.
it's really, I think my biggest message is like, it doesn't have to take as long as you think. It
Mhm.
really doesn't have to take that long. It
Yeah.
can be instantaneous. It can be so fast, and you can get where you want to be so much quicker than you ever thought possible. And yeah, and I know it because I've experienced it and I've helped other people too. Like it's really, it's okay. It doesn't have to take forever.
That's amazing. Yes. And that's like having someone say that too. Sometimes you just need to hear, be like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's so
It
powerful just
really
hearing,
is.
yes, yes. And like, especially when you've been through it, it's like knowing that like that is possible for you and how powerful that is. And I'm just so grateful for everything you shared today. And for anyone who's listening, definitely connect with Catherine and check out her resources. And thank you again for everything that you've provided us with. So much incredible value.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for having me. It's been really fun to talk about all this.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for everyone who's tuned in today and share this episode with someone who you think could really benefit from it. Thanks so much. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If something in this episode stirred your truth, reminded you of your worth, or helped you see your patterns with more compassion, you're already rewiring your life. Remember, you don't have to earn your place, overgive to be valued, or shrink to keep the peace. You get to honor your voice, you get to protect your energy, you get to live aligned with who you really are. If you're ready to go deeper, explore more tools, or join a community of women walking this same path, head over to drkellykessler.com. Everything you need to continue this journey is waiting for you. Until next time, take a deep breath, trust yourself, and keep choosing the version of you who feels like home.